We knew this process would be difficult. We knew there would be some pain involved. When Bo Horvat got traded, a lot of Canucks fans, myself included, felt the shock from acknowledging that the captain of the Vancouver Canucks the past 3-4 years is gone. But that's not all. Because when it comes to the Canucks and their retooling on the fly, we've had insiders like Frank Seravalli make himself known on Sportsnet, saying that guys like Brock Boeser, Luke Schenn, and Conor Garland are next. But today what I wanted to do was go over to Brock in particular and talk about his situation, just kind of go over all the updates we have seen the past few days from different NHL analysts and insiders about whether or not he's going to get traded, where he could get traded to, what the Canucks might be interested in getting in return for the Brock star. And I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to the Canucks trading ideas, this is the one that hurts the most. And it hurts more not because Brock is like a better player than Bo Horvat per se, but because of the stories. This hurts more than Bo Horvat because circumstantially, the Vancouver Canucks are in a spot where Brock Boeser is just that vulnerable piece. Let's head over onto Frank Seravalli's most recent trade targets board. This was from literally like an hour and a half ago. It's talking about the San Jose Sharks. Timo Meier is the new number 1 on Daily Faceoff's targets, and the link will be in the description as always if you want to go ahead and read this. But if you scroll down to the person who is ranked number 8, it is indeed Brock Boeser. Right wing, Vancouver Canucks, 30 points, 41 games played, literally on pace for 60 points in an 82-game season. He's on pace for 18 goals, which is a lot lower than the 30-goal marker that he said he'd be able to hit this year, as unfortunately as that may be. He's got a contract for 2 more years at $6.65 million a season, and I'm not gonna lie, man, for a guy who produces 60 points a year, who is supposed to be a goal scorer, but who doesn't really give you too many goals, 6.6 is pretty steep. And the scoop here says that with Horvat traded, Boeser is on the clock. With the desire and the need to create salary cap flexibility, the Canucks have somehow only added upwards of $10 million in wingers to their cap in the last 10 days, by re-signing Andrei Kuzmenko and acquiring Anthony Beauvillier. That spells the end of Boeser's run in Vancouver, as he's already given the ability to seek a trade through his representative. Boeser hasn't scored at his typical rate this season, but he's still at .73 points per game, and he does have high value as a scoring winger. The issue is term. Will the Canucks be willing to retain a portion of his salary? If not, would they be willing to take on a contract back? Or would Vancouver simply be willing to take a little less on the return in order to move on? Those are questions the Canucks are asking themselves now. Now for Brock, this is why it hurts a little bit more so than Bo. Because with Bo, you definitely could see this coming a mile away. Oh, Bo is so gosh darn good at scoring goals, and the Canucks are not going to be able to re-sign him. Therefore, he's probably on his way out. And the Canucks, to their credit, got a pretty good haul for the guy, all things considered. We talked about this yesterday, but if you take a look at Bo Horvat as the 50-goal, 90-point pace guy, then you could say Beauvillier Ratu in the first probably isn't all that great. But if you look at Bo Horvat as what he's been every other year before that, a 50, 60-point center that can shoot a puck or two, that's a really good return for everything Bo Horvat has provided the Vancouver Canucks up until this year. For Brock, there always is going to be that question of what if? What freaking if? We're not talking about the Watcher and Infinity Ultron here. No, we're talking about Brock Boeser and what could have been had a series of injuries just not have occurred. What would have happened if Boeser played the full rookie season? If Virtanen didn't leave the door open and Cal Clutterbuck didn't reverse hit Boeser into the open part of the boards? Had Boeser played the full season, I'm still a firm believer that he would have hit 30 plus goals. He would have had like 34, 35 probably. He would have won the Calder because his point pace would have been right up there with Matthew Barzal, and more goals equals more favor in the eyes of the NHL Calder voters. And then there's the what if with the wrist. What if he was just healthy the whole time? Like, would Boeser have had multiple 30-goal seasons by now had his wrist just not had all the problems that it had? You know, like, Brock has never had a 30-goal season in the flesh. He's had seasons where, if you do the math over 82 games, he is on pace for 30-plus goals, but he's never had a 30-plus goal year. Even this season, he's on pace for only 18. And this was after the extension. He was given that 6.6 AAV, and he said that he would get 30 goals, and I believe that he'd be able to get it. And I think it was Thatcher Demko who also expressed a vote of confidence saying that Boeser would be able to get it. But he's not. And he really has not been great at scoring goals this season. You know how many backdoor power play tap-ins that Boeser has missed this year, fed over from the left side and JT Miller? Like, sure, Boeser has been getting some goals, but when it comes to what he was supposed to be, that lethal, on-the-rush sniper, the guy who could just drag and shoot like crazy, he was so good at that in his rookie year. Like, there'd be so many rushes where Brock would just take it, walk in, shoot, and score, that it became such a normalized move amongst the young Canucks forward, and it's so frustrating that he's not able to do that anymore. And so now, seeing that Boeser is indeed next on the trade block, it does kind of feel a little bit sad, because this is the one where it's like, yeah, no, what if? What if this could have been the case here? Like, for Bo, it's okay, he's fantastic, but he's priced himself out. He can't do anything about that. For Brock, it's always, what if? You go over to Elliot Friedman's recent 32 thoughts, article, and you talk about the Boeser thing. We had discussed this a few days ago when talking about Thatcher Demko and him being linked to the Kings, the Blue Jackets, the Sabres, and the Penguins, but there are repeated rumblings linking Brock Boeser in Minnesota, but the math doesn't make sense as things stand. This is kind of where Seravalli's question enters the mix. Are the Vancouver Canucks willing to retain salary? Because I'm going to say this right here, if Brock Boeser is making only $3 million against the cap, that's a pretty good contract for a guy that could get you maybe 50, 60 points every single year and maybe 15 plus goals. Pretty good money. And honestly, in my opinion, the Vancouver Canucks shouldn't really be focusing on contending in the immediate short term anyway. They just traded away Bo Horvat after all. That if you wanted to say, all right, well, the next 2 seasons probably won't see the Canucks doing too well, why not hold on to Brock Boeser's 50% salary and see if we can amp up the trade value for this guy in the market? That would make sense to me. Like, sure, the Canucks would be damning themselves a little bit by having $3 million attached to Brock and all the other millions of dollars attached to other things, but there is some money that's being freed up this season with the buyouts of Braden Holtby and Jake Virtanen, and that's about $2.4 million via Cap Friendly coming onto the Canucks cap. So if you really wanted to hold on to a little bit more, then Boeser is an appropriate option that I think does make your trade return a bit better. And you wouldn't need to depart with some other asset like a Rathbone or something to make the trade go through, because as we had said, Boeser at 6.6 is pretty expensive and quite undesirable in my opinion at full value. So, I don't know. Brock Boeser to Minnesota, we've talked about this for years, but is it going to happen? Not really too sure. There's some salary shenanigans that need to be worked out here. As for the future of Canucks trades in general, Seravalli did say it's Brock, it's Garland, it's Schenn. These guys are all up next, and who even knows if the All-Star break is going to see a peaceful return for any of these guys to Vancouver, because I mean, there's so much action going on in the midst of this period. The trade deadline is like the final hammer down point of the season, but there also is that All-Star break, because this is sort of the 1 month removed sort of territory where a lot of teams are saying, all right, well, this is like part 1 of the dates that we have to have our plan finalized. And for Brock, I mean, Seravalli went out there and said it. All the other insiders are saying it. There's a lot of interest in this guy, and he's likely going to be on his way out. We'll make another video when we can determine the trade price and everything for this guy, because of course he does need to get sent away for a certain amount of assets, but thoughts in the comment section below either way. Are your thoughts about Boeser being the most likely to be traded next? Where do you want to see him go to? If you're a fan of the Wild or any other team, what would you give in return for Brock Boeser? And if you're a Canucks fan, what are your responses to those trade ideas? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.